Good evening. I'm Stan Gerson, Dean of the School of Medicine, and delighted that we get together just before sunset for all of us to celebrate the appointment of Dr. Stephanie Harris to the Helen Moss Foundation, Schoff Family Professorship in Integrative Oncology. And I'd like to especially note the Harris family and the Moss family and the Schoffs that are here with us this afternoon to celebrate, along with the faculty of the Department of Nutrition. First, I get to remind, since none of us think about where in the world professorships come from, they're here at academic institutions across the country and the world, really to celebrate faculty who will become our teachers, our researchers, our brightest and smartest folks in the academic field for their lifelong contributions to human health. There really is an incredible competition for such an esteemed group of individuals, and professorships that are endowed really help us attract and retain and celebrate the best we have. So, Dr. Harris, welcome to that community. The concept of professorship is actually pretty special. Around the world, there are probably thousands, but not tens of thousands. They date back to the origins of academic institutions. The oldest on record came during the Renaissance. It was established by King Henry VIII in 1540. The Regius Chair of Civil Law at Oxford University. The oldest in the U.S. Is Harvard's Hollis Professorship of Mathematics and Natural Philosophy, established in 1721 in the Divinity School. It's now part of the Department of Physics. Like many professorships, the Hollis Chair is switched around across that university, having undergone generations of both holders and evolved areas of interest. It's now held by a woman, Dr. Karen King, in the Department of Physics. I'm not sure that Dr. Hollis in 1721 would have imagined that a woman would hold that chair. So thank goodness for present day. The oldest chair at the School of Medicine is about 120 years old, and that's the Leonard C. Hanna Professorship. There's lots of Hannas around here. Established in 1901 from Howard Hanna in honor of his father. You'll recognize these names. Next came the Henry Wilson Payne Professorship in Experimental Medicine, a joint gift of Howard Hanna and of Oliver Payne. Overall, we have about 125 professorships in the School of Medicine. I can't name them all, but many. And we're able to offer these because of the generosity of our incredible donors and supporters of the university, of the school, friends and alumni who help us keep our mission going forward, which is to improve global health by linking research to populations in a superb educational environment. And you will see and hear about this professorship from an individual deeply embedded in those missions. The environment for our professorships at the School of Medicine is actually pretty remarkable, since we have as our full-time faculty over 3,400 scientists and physicians across Cleveland, including all of the major medical centers, as well as another little over 3,600 part-time who educate our students across the entire region. So we're very thankful to the Helen Moss Foundation and the Moss family and the Schoff family for helping us today with this professorship. Let me tell you a little bit about Helen Moss, and you'll hear more about her from her family. She was an absolutely remarkable individual, a self-starter with whom intelligence, passion, and drive knew absolutely no limits, and she would challenge everyone to keep up with her. Her life was one of many firsts. She was the first woman first in her graduating class when she graduated from the University of Akron in 1970. She did this at the age of 34 after having had 4 children. She was the first female, one of the first female stockbrokers at Merrill Lynch, and she went on to become the company's first female vice president in Northeast Ohio, and also the first woman to hold membership in the City Club of Akron. Then in 2000 came a first of a different kind. She was first diagnosed with advanced breast cancer. She went on to fight it and created the Helen Moss Cancer Research Foundation and pursued it for over 13 years. That's when I came to know Helen, and I participated in many intense meetings at her home in Broughton about the care of women with breast cancer, the need to consider the entire patient experience. And that's where the concept of integrative health came in as a way to either delay the progression or certainly the effects of cancer. And that led to this professorship. As a number of us know in the room, she also advocated strongly and succeeded in bringing the national meeting of the Society of Integrative Oncology here to Cleveland, and she convinced Senator Sherrod Brown to give pretty passionate opening remarks about the importance of this. And I think it's fair to say she was an absolute force of nature. So it's not an understatement to say that Helen really brought integrative oncology, integrative medicine here to Cleveland more than now 25 years ago, and that her philanthropy, support, and perseverance really helped us realize how important this was. And like Helen, the Schoff family, with whom we share this professorship, recognize the unique importance of the field of integrative oncology, integrative medicine, and they have established the Schoff Family Charitable Fund with a 3-part mission to promote health, hope, and history in Cleveland and beyond. And their involvement with the Case Comprehensive Cancer Center, the Cancer Council, and the School of Medicine through the Council to Advance Human Health have been very, very instructive and supportive of all of our academic missions, especially those that translate out to our patient population. Outside the university, Ann and Jim are remarkable individuals. Hope you get to know them if you don't. They've been supporters of the Near West Theater, the City Year Cleveland, the Western Reserve Historical Society, and they've generously supported the Birth to 3 program in New York State. So in recognition of our 2 families here to help support this professorship, I'd like to invite the Moss family to come forward, and then the Schoff family to come forward and say a few words. And I have 2 small gifts, which we'll all keep wrapped, which just so you don't get, they're not chocolate, I'm really sorry, but they are wonderful Case Western Reserve picture frames, which you'll enjoy. We'll make sure you have the opportunity to get a picture from this event to be framed. So please come forward, and I know that you've got some comments.
Welcome. Again, my name's John Moss, and on behalf of my brother Jim, my sister Shirley, my wife Karen, thank you for having us today, and a big congratulations to you, Dr. Harris. We're very excited about this. As we got we're going to shout out some longtime friends here today. I see Peter Osner, who's been with Helen and from the beginning, and I see Marie Puhana. Probably, if I miss anybody else, who've just been supportive right from the beginning, from the 10 years. And I can never ever talk about this chair without big thanks to the Schoff family. I mean, nobody knows what happened there at the end, but they were our angels. They came in, white knights, and the reason why we're here today, as they do with many, and have they done with many organizations in this town. So we will always be eternally grateful to you. So thank you very much. I'm going to touch a lot upon what Dean Gerson had to say very kindly about my mother. But I think when you think of the genesis of this chair, it really is about my mother and this not listening to conventional wisdom. So as Dean mentioned, when my mother was 28 years old, a working class housewife in Barberton, Ohio, with 4 children under the age of 12, decided against conventional wisdom, this would be a good time to go to college. So 4 years later, she graduates from college, does a little stint with the Teamsters, gets laid off, and she takes a job at Merrill Lynch. Merrill Lynch lost a lawsuit, and they had to hire women. So they hired her, and back then, you were given a phone book, a telephone, and said, you have 2 years to bring in $10 million or you're fired. Now, this is the mid-1970s. This is Mad Men world. This is, 2 martini lunches, lots of golf. If you weren't sleeping with your secretary, you were sexually harassing her, and that seemed to be fine. So this is the environment, and her boss had a couple words of advice. One, don't be opinionated. Don't say anything too much, because don't give people reason not to invest with you. And the second thing was, and do not, for God's sake, do not get in the paper. You should be in the paper 2 times in your life: the day you're born and the day you die. Well, Miss Boss Man, meet Helen Moss. So once she became prominent and vice president, and she's living in Akron, and the encouragement of her friends, who were all young women who were struggling to break the glass ceiling, she applied to all the men's clubs that didn't allow women. Portage Country Club, Fairlawn Country Club, Firestone Country Club, Akron City Club, Hilltoppers Club, with the idea that what, she wasn't going to get accepted. But by bringing media attention and maybe lawsuits, try to crack that glass ceiling. And she did get into, as the dean pointed out, she was the first one, the Akron City Club. And she did get the newspapers to write about it. My sister Kokani brought a little editorial that the Akron Beacon Journal had written about her, and she was very proud of that. But again, going with the idea against conventional wisdom and against my boss. Then, fast forward to 2000, she gets breast cancer, and stage 4. So she starts an experimental procedure to save her life. She doesn't last very long. She's dying. So she quits. And we start planning her funeral. And she, against conventional wisdom, starts planning her life. So over the next 13 years, she goes around the world. She runs for political office and wins. She was still an employee at Merrill Lynch the day she died. And she started a development corporation, Breezy Bluff, and developed a section of Bracknell, Ohio. And she started this foundation, the Helen Moss Breast Cancer Foundation. And the purpose was, just like everything, was to go against conventional wisdom, that there's got to be a better way than massive amounts of chemo or whatever to cure cancer. And that led to this chair that was first held by Dr. Lee, and now the torch is being passed to you, Dr. Harris. So we have great hope. Met her, love her. She's going to do great things, and we want to congratulate you so much. So thank you, and we look to hear what you have to say. Thank you.
Helen was truly a force. And when your heart is right and you're open, and Helen would talk, and we'd listen, and we'd think, this was a fairly new phenomena, this integrative oncology. It was something that, boy, it sounded good, but we didn't know much about it. And the more Helen talked, and the more we listened, and I adored Helen, we both did, and then we said, well, okay, we'll put our toe in the water, and then we put our foot in the water, and then we jumped in the water. And the wonderful things that have happened in integrative oncology, and here we are in Cleveland. I think that was a piece you didn't mention, John, was that Helen said, I want this in Cleveland. And look, here it is. And I know that you're doing wonderful things already, but I know sitting in your chair, you're going to do wonderful things. And your kids are so proud of you. I could tell that.
I want to ask that little guy over there, are you going to be a doctor? No. Why not? Listen, I had many sessions with Helen. We both were in a charity organization called the Sovereign Order of St. John. We were writing a newsletter. I wrote it, she published it, and we would spend hours at night arguing about, can you take 2 sentences out of that, as opposed, because I can only fit 1 in. And we would, minor stuff like that. But in the meantime, she would constantly talk about, I get mushrooms from here, and I get this from there, and I get this from here. And really, I'm going to bring this idea of the body healing itself in many ways with some outside help, rather than taking, the usual treatments, which basically say, well, we'll keep you alive a little longer, but we'll kill you in the end. And what attracted me from the beginning was the fact that this was a direct investment in Cleveland to do research for that particular area, which was then coming on to the main floor with people saying, hey, there's got to be a better way. And we had Dr. Lee first, and now we've got Stephanie. And thank goodness that we have the ability to, replace people and keep the whole thing going. That's the most important thing to us, is that, and one of these days, as in Richard Lee had, what do you have? He had mushrooms from Japan and mistletoe from Germany that showed some. And what he was interested in was all of these compounds that people talk about as being helpful have all been helpful because you wouldn't know about them if they hadn't been. So therefore, there's nothing wrong with that. What I'm really interested in is, do any of them help relieve or resolve cancer? And that was what got me there, because to me, the idea of a direct investment in a project is one of 2 ways. It fails or it succeeds. And either way, you learn something. And so the benefit of it is the money is never lost, in my mind, because if it didn't work, you try something else. If it does work, you've got a huge success that brings recognition to the University Hospital, as well as the faculty and professors here. So all I can say is, she was the start, and she was able, through her energy, enthusiasm, and frankly, as someone said, force of nature, she was able to make this happen and bring to fore us, John and his family, and everybody else. And frankly, everybody, even now when we speak of it, the first thing they say is, well, Helen started that, didn't she? And she did. So let's keep it going. Let's hope in the future we'll hear great things coming out of here with regard to this. And at that point, we can all celebrate having done something for mankind.
That all sounds like a hard act to follow, and I'm delighted that Stephanie Harris, as the chairholder, and her chair of the Department of Nutrition, Dr. Hope Barkoukas, are up to the challenge, and as you'll hear from them. So let me tell you a little bit about Hope, who will then introduce Dr. Stephanie Harris. So Dr. Barkoukas is, as the chair of the Department of Nutrition, is also a creator of a major education program that we have here at the School of Medicine for our medical students, which is called the Jack Joseph Morton Mendel Wellness and Prevention Care Pathway. We are one of the first schools to really point out how important nutrition is in health and health maintenance, and how critical it is to understanding just how we actually keep our training going forward and keep our students aware of the importance of their nutrition. And what's interesting is that the students partake of this pathway more than any other pathway we have in the School of Medicine. So being able to teach our future healthcare professionals across disciplines how important nutrition is critical. Dr. Barkoukas is a real expert, having received numerous teaching awards, the 2019 Outstanding Dietetic Educator from the Nutrition Dietetics Education Professionals and the Ohio Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, where she was identified as a top professor, and the John S. Dieckhoff Graduate Award for Teaching Excellence through Case Western Reserve University. She has advanced training as a culinary coach from Harvard University, the Institute of Lifestyle Medicine, and advanced training in culinary arts. She's the one person in the room who will actually be able to identify those mushrooms that we all heard about for years, and has taught me a huge amount. In fact, she was the instigator of the teaching kitchen that we have now, with hundreds and hundreds of our students across the university participating in her courses. And they don't just come to eat, they actually come to learn about the difference between, I heard today, a mushroom and an onion. So important to know. So understanding the foundations and the importance of nutrition, wellness, ethnic changes in populations and their approach to food cultivation and intake, the importance of understanding body composition, respiratory calorimetry, energy balance, nutritional status, dietetic assessments, protein analysis, are all critical. And she's been incredibly helpful for us as a School of Medicine to understand this and our research and our education. So I'm going to introduce Dr. Barkoukas, and she will then introduce Dr. Harris.
Thank you very much, Dean Gerson, for that very kind introduction. And thank you so much to the Moss Foundation, the Moss family, the Schoff family. May her memory be eternal. So I am really excited to introduce Stephanie. Stephanie is not only a colleague of mine, but a very dear friend. And I'll just start by saying that being Greek, I love Greek philosophers, and Aristotle has been sort of attributed to say that we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence is not an act, it's a habit. And I can honestly say with full honesty and confidence that every single thing that Stephanie does, it's a hallmark of excellence. She joined the faculty in 2012 as a full-time member. And then she, and when you look at the different domains in the domain of education, in 2015 and 2020, she received from Ohio the Dietetic Educator of the Year Award. She was nominated in 2012, 2013, 2018, 2020, and 22 as Excellence in Teaching. And last year in 2022, she was the recipient of the Carl Whitty Excellence in Undergrad Teaching Award. Just before the pandemic hit, thank you, God, we finished our second external department review, no small undertaking. And interestingly, independently, each of the external reviewers said that our curriculum across the board was cutting edge. We were leaders, not followers. And I attribute a great deal of that accolade to Stephanie. She developed two very unique courses across schools. You will not usually find them. One is on integrative and on functional nutrition, and one is on dietary supplements. Very well received. In the whole area of service, she has extensive national service. She serves on 17 different committees. And to give you an idea of her footprint, our professional, one of them organization is called the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. Dean Gerson referred to it. And one of the main committees is called the Committee on Lifelong Learning. That is the committee that really sets the entire educational programming for the entire annual educational event, and Stephanie was just the chair of that particular committee. She's definitely not slacking off in the committees in the School of Medicine and in the university. Stan will be thrilled to know that she's on 24 different committees. And so she's clearly very robust in her service. In terms of scholastically, she is, of course, credentialed as a licensed registered dietitian with clinical experience as well as research experience. She's also certified in culinary coaching as well as, of course, research credentialing. She's developed 6 different, very successful, different types of educational modules. She's going to explain to you what she's doing today with this professorship. She's had 36 recent invited national presentations, numerous awards for her research abstracts and posters. She's published 26 articles, abstracts, 3 book chapters, and her research was a feature in the Journal of Chemical Research and Toxicology. So, Stephanie, we not only applaud what you've done, but we know that excellence is your hallmark, and we know the best is yet to be.
Hope, thank you so much for that incredibly warm introduction. Forgive me, my voice is hoarse. This is obviously the worst time to pick up a cold, but we're gonna power through this. So it is such an honor to be here to receive this chair and to see so many friends, family, and colleagues in this audience. I'm supposed to share my story today with you, and of course, I'm going to try to do that, but I cannot do so without first giving credit to all of those that have helped me write this story. I'm extremely grateful to those of you that I have learned from and leaned on. And I want to give a special thanks to my family first, who have helped me write this story from the beginning. To my father, Jerry Anderson, and to my mother, Mary Shields, who gave me both roots and wings. To my sister, Danielle White, who is my dearest friend. And to my husband, Paul, and to my beautiful children, Anderson, Ozzy, and Penelope, who are at the center of everything I do and who consistently inspire me to try to be the best version of myself. Thank you. So how does one go from working as a registered dietitian to becoming a basic scientist to then focusing on education of future healthcare professionals and land within this integrative nutrition and medicine space? Well, I want to quickly take you through my unique journey and the variety of experiences that I've had that have led me down this unique path. So let's start in the beginning. I was born and raised in Conneaut, and small town Ohio has a lot to offer to a child in terms of appreciating the simple things in life. And you can see in these pictures, spending time in nature with my parents, gardening with my grandpa Anderson, who grew his own food, learning to cook with my other grandpa, a proud Italian with a deeply rooted Mediterranean culinary background, and just valuing family time and connection was just who we were as a part of a family. And little did I know at that time that everything that I was being taught is ultimately the basis of what is known as lifestyle medicine today. So these early life exposures, as well as becoming a gymnast and then a competitive runner, are what initially sparked my interest in the field of nutrition. As a young gymnast, I remember my coaches talking to us about how food fuels the body, and then later encouraging us to eat for performance. And I became fascinated by this. You know, how do carbohydrates provide working energy to working muscle cells? Or how is protein involved in repair and recovery? So by the middle of high school, I knew that I wanted to learn so much more about nutrition and metabolism and to specifically study the intersection between what we eat and health and disease. So I chose to pursue this study at Cornell University, where I had a plethora of experiences that really propelled my desire to become a nutrition professional. For example, I participated in research on the Get Fresh project, which focused on utilizing the state's farmers market nutrition program to increase fruit and vegetable consumption and access to healthy foods. And by graduation, I knew that my next step would have to integrate my desire to teach people about how nutrition impacts health with my desire to learn more about nutrition research. And that's why I originally landed here at Case Western, because I matched to University Hospital's dietetic internship program to become an RDN, which was combined with a master's degree here in the Department of Nutrition at Case. So during my master's degree, I had exposure to the basic science world, which I fell in love with pretty quickly, where I was able at this time to study the impact of obesity on protein synthesis. And this experience was pivotal for me because it ultimately solidified my interest in pursuing a career in academia. However, I first put on my dietitian hat and I worked as a clinical dietitian for a couple of years. Also did some consulting for wellness program development in the private sector before returning to Case for my PhD. So under the mentorship of Dr. Henri Brunengraber, I continued my journey into the basic science world, learning how to study metabolism with the use of metabolomics and stable isotope technologies. And very, very long story short, one of our projects led us to discover that a calcium salt known as calcium levolinate is converted in the liver to a drug of abuse, which was of public health relevance at the time because people can freely take a calcium supplement and purchase it from anywhere and could utilize it to induce desired drug effects. And I only shared these details with you because this was a major milestone in my story that led me down the path to learning about dietary supplements, their regulation, and their potential use in health or disease, as well as their risks, which ultimately was my initial segue into the world of integrative medicine. So to fast forward in time, I got married, as you can see here, finished my PhD, did a postdoctoral fellowship, and it was quite serendipitous when a position in the Department of Nutrition opened at the same time. Now, as junior faculty here, one of my initial responsibilities was to create some new courses for our students whose educational interests basically paralleled consumer trends in the use of complementary healthcare approaches, such as dietary supplements, as you can see. And our students also wanted to learn about other models of medicine, such as integrative medicine, which combine conventional therapeutics with complementary health approaches and bring those two together. And as you can see on the left here, nutrition is a big part of this, right? Using food as medicine, using supplements, focusing on personalized diet modifications is an important component of integrative medicine and health. So I was very fortunate to connect with and learn from others who were already carving inroads in education and research in integrative medicine. And I also got involved with and was able to serve in some leadership roles for some of the professional organizations that embrace the integrative medicine model. And my involvement with these organizations has honestly been a big part of my story because they've allowed me to collaborate with amazing colleagues and contribute to the field, not just from an educational and professional service standpoint, but also from a scholarly standpoint, some of which is highlighted here. So for example, committee service with the Academy that Hope just mentioned led to co-authorship in the Health Professionals Guide to Dietary Supplements. Involvement with the Academic Consortium of Integrative Medicine and Health led to meeting Dr. Rich Lee and some work with him. And most recently, collaborating with him and Gabe Moss on writing a chapter on the importance of integrative medicine in cancer prevention and survivorship. So collectively, all of these efforts have been about building the field and creating more education opportunities for students and healthcare providers who want to be a part of it. During this period of my life, things also got a little crazy. We started a family and went from having 1 to 2 to 3 children. And as many of you know, being a woman who has a full-time career, who is also blessed, truly blessed with motherhood, at the same time is not easy and certainly cannot be done without the full support of family, husbands or partners, friends, other women faculty and chairs such as mine who have done it all before. So I'm truly fortunate to have these support networks. So moving on to what I'm doing now and where I'm headed. In 2018, Hope Barkoukas asked me to join her as faculty lead of the Jack Joseph and Morton Mandel Wellness and Preventive Care Pathway that you guys just heard about, that she developed for our medical students. And honestly, this was an excellent opportunity for me to meld my background in nutrition with my passion for incorporating wellness, prevention, and integrative medicine modalities into curriculum in order to expand upon the education of our future doctors. So our wellness pathway engages medical students in weekly sessions using this trifecta curriculum shown here. And I just want to hone in on this culinary immersion or culinary medicine for a minute. Culinary medicine, for those of you that don't know, it is an interprofessional disease prevention and treatment modality that falls under the umbrella of lifestyle and integrative medicine. And there's been a solid rising interest in culinary medicine through government, educational, clinical, and community-based initiatives because it can be used as an intervention to help address the increased burden of diet-related health conditions. And when it comes to medical education, if we want nutrition to be a part of routine care, then our healthcare providers need to better understand and appreciate the relationship between food, nutrition, cooking skills, and health outcomes. So by educating students in a teaching kitchen setting where they're learning key nutrition competencies through everyday food planning, preparation, and healthy cooking strategies, we can actually promote changes or try to promote changes in nutrition knowledge and healthy cooking skills that may positively impact personal and professional behaviors. And there's actually a growing body of research that's demonstrating the efficacy of culinary medicine interventions in fostering positive behavior changes, and how, as part of interprofessional healthcare, it can serve as the vital link in empowering people to follow healthy dietary patterns that are aimed at chronic disease prevention and management. So it is critical to increase healthcare professional competency in this area, which supports what we've been doing in the wellness pathway in medical education, what we have published as shown on the right here and are currently working on in dietetics education, as well as my most recent endeavor, which has been the creation and implementation of an education intervention or new curriculum for medical students in the wellness pathway that's known as Cancer Calm, where CALM stands for Culinary and Lifestyle Medicine. And I'm very excited to share this work because the vision and the generosity of the Schoff family, the Moss family, and the Helen Moss Foundation have provided us with yet another opportunity to expand on and elevate medical education in a way that may impact the health of our students and their future patients. So the overall goal of Cancer Calm is to provide physicians in training with a knowledge base and understanding for the role of nutrition, culinary approaches, and lifestyle changes or modifications that may help decrease cancer risk. And currently, it's a series of 8 education sessions with culinary medicine labs embedded that focus on the key target areas in which diet and lifestyle may impact cancer risk, such as the gut microbiome, inflammation, metabolic and hormonal dysregulation, decreasing environmental exposures, physical activity and stress management, and really how to tie all of this together so that we can implement this in both practice and at home. So each Cancer Calm session is 3 hours. We start with nutrition education, then we have 90 minutes of cooking where the students are receiving culinary instruction, as well as preparing and tasting recipes and discussing the nutrition and the culinary components that are aimed at cancer prevention. And then we end with an activity that's aimed at reinforcing behavior change for patient care. We just started this curriculum at the end of September. And here are some pictures of the medical students participating in one of our sessions that focused on dietary patterns that are linked to cancer risk reduction. And they're showing you they're highlighting the culinary activity that we had them do, which is where they made recipes so that they could build the new American plate, which is a pro-plant-based dietary pattern that was developed by the American Institute of Cancer Research that's specifically tailored for cancer prevention. Here are some more sessions from a picture I just did from a session I just did last Thursday, which was focused on the role of the gut microbiome in health and disease, such as the link between gut health or gut dysbiosis and colon cancer risk. And in this culinary activity, the students learned about various ways to increase probiotics, prebiotics, and polyphenols in the diet, as well as culinary techniques to help limit red meat, processed meat, and avoiding charring meat. And you can see from the pictures, the students are very engaged. But more importantly, they're learning how to apply practical nutrition recommendations that may impact future health. So why is this important? Why is Cancer Calm important? Why focus on cancer prevention? Well, cancer is the second most prevalent chronic disease in the United States. And what's worse is that we're seeing increased risk of cancer in those who have other chronic diseases. Many Americans have 2 or more. In addition, if you just consider 2 factors, living in the US and aging, our overall lifetime risk of developing cancer is just over 40%. If you sit with that statistic for just a second, I think that you'll agree with me that it's more urgent now than ever that we have healthcare providers that are armed with skills to confidently prescribe lifestyle changes to patients that can help with this chronic disease crisis. And prevention strategies are not just limited to those that are never diagnosed with cancer. Rather, they're approaches for all stages, including additional support for those that are at increased risk of certain types of cancer, or prevention of recurrence or of a new type of cancer among survivors of cancer. And this is what we're doing in Cancer Calm. We're trying to equip our future doctors with the knowledge and the skills to use evidence-based care plans that target diet and lifestyle for cancer and overall disease, chronic disease risk reduction. We also chose to implement Cancer Calm, or focus on initially implementing Cancer Calm as an education intervention, because educating future healthcare providers allows us the potential to multiply our impact. Just think about it. You can see or treat one patient at a time with a focus on preclinical or clinical trials. Or you can teach many doctors who can touch the lives of many patients. And an added bonus is that we're able to integrate some of our nutrition students into these educational sessions, which allows for an interprofessional experience across some disciplines. And this in turn should hopefully promote interprofessional collaborative practice for them in the future, and possibly some new strategies for a multidisciplinary approach in the fight against cancer. And I also just want to mention that Cancer Calm is actually, the curriculum is unique. So although there are about 35 medical schools that offer culinary medicine courses and 50 medical schools that now have teaching kitchens, none of them that we're aware of are focusing or specifically focusing on diet and lifestyle modifications for cancer prevention, which means that we have the opportunity to pave the way. And honestly, creating a replicable curriculum that medical schools across the country could utilize would be invaluable for generations of future healthcare providers. And again, this endowed chair is what is allowing us to propel this forward. I also want to just briefly mention that we've developed a robust framework for evaluating the impact of Cancer Calm. And I'm not going to stand up here and bore you with all the research details, but we do want to know if this educational intervention changes knowledge, beliefs, and attitudes, self-efficacy surrounding specific risk reduction strategies in patient care. And ultimately, we want to know if this curriculum leads to or impacts personal and professional intentions and behaviors. And by intentions and behaviors, we're looking at cancer-specific assessment and counseling skills in patient care, and also our students' personal health behaviors and eating habits. And we're going to use this evaluation to guide future curriculum changes, as well as a driver for what comes next. So to wrap things up, I don't have time to thank everyone who has co-authored my story, but I am incredibly grateful to be in this position, and I would like to thank a couple of people specifically. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the Schoff family, the Moss family, and the Helen Moss Foundation for their generosity. I am so deeply honored and grateful for this unparalleled opportunity, and I look forward to all of the education and science that we get to do in the next couple of years. I would like to thank Dean Gerson for valuing the importance of teaching and mentoring in the School of Medicine, and for also having the vision to connect me to this opportunity. I'd like to thank Dr. Barkoukas for her global vision, outstanding leadership, and unwavering support and guidance. And last, I would like to thank all of my mentors, collaborators, and the fantastic students over here who have worked with me directly to bring Cancer Calm to fruition. So I'm going to close by sharing a very short video with you that our University Media Vision team created this summer from one of our culinary medicine sessions we did with the students. And I want to end here because I think it'll give you the best sense for how we're trying to make a difference.
You can see it once you walk in here. This is a very lively education setting, one of the largest state-of-the-art teaching kitchens in the U.S.
We're not teaching them to be Martha Stewart. They are learning about simple food education to really improve health.
To get students in the kitchen doing. So instead of just listening to the concepts, we're really integrating it into their practice.
Make sure we are recommending recipes that are healthy, learn how to cook at home that make food that tastes good.
Being able to say, like, here's a couple good recipes I turn to, and that we actually have firsthand experience.
They can quickly impart to patients. If you have 2 minutes, tell them what they can eat, not what they can't eat.
We also want to engage the community in this kitchen. We're able to live stream so that we can reach individuals around the globe eventually.
We do want to make Case Western Reserve a testimony to help people be healthier by learning the importance of food in a fun, positive way.
It's really good. If I can do it, you can definitely do it because I'm not the best cook.
Thank you.
Well, I'm inspired for the next meal that I have to make sure it's Harris compliant. That's a new term I'm going to start using. I think that was a wowzer presentation, so thank you, having a unique effort. And I want our entire community and our donors to appreciate this might not have happened without the professorship. To get a dietetic community to think about cancer issues, risk, and prevention is transformative, and I think it'll help our students, and as you heard, the multiplier effect when they become physicians and throughout the community. And my hunch is we'll start local, regional, and then ultimately some national programs for this. So I think it's clear why we value here at the School of Medicine professorships as much as we do. And so it's my privilege to bring Dr. Harris forward and let her sit in the chair as the Helen Moss Foundation Moss-Schoff Family Professorship in Integrative Oncology. So we've taken all the pictures I think that we need to. You're set, so we can all head out and have some refreshments and enjoy a little discussion. Thank you all.